I never thought I'd be posting anything like this, NGL. My hands are still shaking so bad I can barely type. I'm David, 48, CEO of a pretty successful company, married to Emily for 18 years. I thought we had a solid, if complicated, life. But just an hour ago, a young woman walked into my office, and the bomb she dropped just shattered everything I thought I knew. My head was buried in a spreadsheet, trying to untangle some complex financial projections, when Sarah's voice buzzed through the intercom. Mr. David, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a young woman here, Olivia. She says it's urgent, won't give her last name, but insists she has to see you. IDK, but a cold dread hit me right then. It wasn't the usual sales pitch or charity. The way Sarah said insist told me everything. My gut clenched. Send her in, Sarah, and hold all my calls. A minute later, a young woman, probably early 20s, walked into my office. She was pretty, but her face was etched with a mix of defiance and deep sadness. She didn't sit down, just stood there, hands clasped in front of her. Then, without a word, she reached into her bag and pulled out a photo. She laid it on my desk. It was a picture of me and Emily from our wedding day, 18 years ago. Young, hopeful, oblivious. NGL, my stomach dropped. This wasn't a random fan. This was something deep. Something from a past I'd buried so far down I barely remembered its smell. Olivia, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake starting in my chest. Before we talk, I need you to do something for me. Sarah? I buzzed her again. Bring me the USB drive from my desk drawer, the one labeled Project Phoenix. She brought it in, confused. I took it, looked at Olivia. Sarah, if this young woman is Olivia or Clara, I need you to take her to the conference room and play this video. Wait for her reaction. Don't leave her alone. I looked at Olivia. Do you understand? She just nodded, her eyes wide, tears already starting to well. Sarah came back a few minutes later, her expression grim. It's Olivia, Mr. David. She watched the video. She's crying a lot. Said she can't believe she was lied to her whole life. My brain was short-circuiting. The video was a contingency plan, a dead man's switch I'd prepared years ago, detailing Emily's affair, the real story. The one Emily's powerful father, Mr. Miller Sr., ex-CIA, ruthless as hell, forced me to keep quiet under threat of a contract on my life if I ever breathed a word. He'd even orchestrated a forced adoption of the twins, Clara and Olivia, making it seem like he was their biological father just to cement his control and erase my connection. Emily had cried and begged me to go along, claiming she was scared for her life, for mine. And like a fool, I'd agreed. For 18 years, I'd lived with that secret, that burning injustice. I took a deep breath. Bring her back in, please. Olivia walked in, looking like a ghost. How did you find me? I asked, my voice raw. Old photo, she choked out, wiping her eyes. Found it in a box. It had your face and Emily's. Google did the rest. Your company, your marriage certificate online. It wasn't hard. She took another shaky breath. Mr. David, my sister, Clara, she's sick. She needs a bone marrow transplant. And Mr. Miller, he's not our biological father. They did the test. Clara needs a match. We found out he lied about everything. My world didn't just spin, it shattered. He's not. The words caught in my throat. Could it be? Could they be mine? The twins Emily had told me were Miller's, conceived during her affair. The reason Miller Sr. had such leverage over me? No, it couldn't be. My eyes welled up, blurring her face. For 18 years, I'd mourned 2 children I never knew. For 18 years, I'd believed Miller Sr. had snatched them away, using his power to cover up his daughter's indiscretion and my forced silence. But if he wasn't their father? I looked at Sarah, whose face held a mix of knowing sadness and a slight, almost encouraging smile. She knew. She'd known from the moment she watched that video. Sarah, I said, my voice cracking but firming, I need you to contact every major publisher, every news outlet, an anonymous leak. The story of Mr. Miller Sr.'s corruption, the forced adoption, the cover-up. Leak it now, discreetly. I want his empire burning by sundown. She nodded, already pulling out her phone. And, I continued, turning back to Olivia, I need an emergency DNA test, ASAP, and a litigation lawyer, top tier for parental rights. I want an injunction against Miller Sr. I want him stripped of every connection to those girls. My voice was rising now, a desperate, angry energy coursing through me. Clear my entire schedule. I'm going to Clara's hospital, now. Give me the address. Olivia, still wiping tears, gave me the information. As she stood there looking up at me, the light hit her face just right, and it hit me like a physical blow. Her eyes, her nose, the shape of her jaw. She was a dead ringer for my younger sister, who'd passed away years ago. Not Emily's side, my side. A choked sob escaped me. I reached out, my hand hovering for a second, then gently cupped her cheek. Tears streamed down both our faces. I couldn't speak. She just leaned into my touch. Sarah, ever the professional, subtly pulled out her phone and snapped a few quick pictures. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a reckoning. The moment Olivia and I left my office, everything felt like a blur. My mind was racing, 1,000 thoughts all crashing into each other. Sarah had already called ahead. To the lab, I told my driver, and make it fast. We pulled up to a diagnostic center, and before I could even blink, Sarah had whisked Olivia in for blood tests, paying with a corporate card. Everything was rush order, stat results. The urgency was palpable, fueled by my own desperate hope. While we waited for the initial blood draw, Sarah, the absolute rock star, pulled me aside. Mr. David, I've managed to get a table at Cells in an hour. Brenda will meet us there. My sister, Brenda. Smart move. Sarah knew that seeing Olivia and Brenda together would be undeniable proof. In the car, heading to Cells, I finally had a moment to really look at Olivia. Her face, tear-streaked and exhausted, gave away how much this was taking out of her. How did you even get here, Olivia? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She mumbled, drove, skipped school. Skipped school, drove all day. My blood ran cold for a second. That protective, almost paternal rage flared up. You drove all day? Alone? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? But then I saw the vulnerability in her eyes, the desperation that must have driven her here, and I held my tongue. That dad instinct was already kicking in hard. This wasn't the time for a lecture. We pulled up to Cells, a fairly upscale, quiet spot, perfect for discreet conversations. Brenda's car was already in the parking lot. My heart was pounding. Look, Olivia, I said, turning to her before we went in. Sarah arranged this for a reason. You were about to see what Sarah and I saw on your face. In that video. She looked at me, her eyes wide, a mix of apprehension and a fragile hope. Can I call you Dad? The question was tiny, barely a whisper. NGL, a wave of emotion hit me so hard I almost buckled. A laugh, thick with unshed tears, bubbled up. I'd love that, sweetheart, more than anything. We walked in and Brenda was already seated at our reserved booth, her back to us. She was fiddling with her phone, probably wondering why I dragged her out on such short notice. I walked up behind her, Olivia a step behind me. Brenda, I said, my voice carefully neutral. She looked up, a slight frown on her face. David, what's going on? You sounded really serious on the phone. Stand up, Brenda, I instructed, my voice unwavering. She looked at me, confused, but slowly pushed herself up. All right, what's with the dram? Then she saw Olivia, standing right beside me. Brenda's jaw just dropped. Her eyes, wide with shock, flickered from Olivia to me, then back to Olivia. It was like she was looking into a mirror, seeing a younger, slightly different version of herself staring back. Same eyes, same nose, same curve of the mouth. Oh my God, David, she whispered, tears instantly springing to her eyes. You should have warned me. Her voice was thick with emotion, accusation, and pure, raw astonishment. Olivia stepped forward, her own tears flowing freely now. I'm sorry, she choked out. I just surprised him a few hours ago. Jackie and Dad knew immediately. She was talking about her twin, Clara, and how they knew Miller Sr. wasn't their father. The family resemblance was that strong. A server, bless her, approached our table with a knowing look. She didn't say a word, just placed an extra box of tissues on the table before scurrying away. She'd clearly seen this kind of drama before. Brenda, still wiping her eyes, pulled out her phone. Mike, she said into the phone, her voice shaking. You, Mom, Dad, everyone, get to Cells. Now. Family emergency, and I mean emergency. She looked at me, a silent question in her eyes. What about Emily? The less said about Emily for now, the better, I replied, my voice hard. Trust me, everything is about to change. Just then my phone vibrated, a text from Sarah. Publisher just released the info, expected on the 6 p.m. news. Mr. Miller is already calling around, but it's too late. My heart hammered. It was happening. Soon enough, the restaurant door opened again and my father, Frank, walked in, his booming voice announcing his arrival before I even saw him. Brenda! David! What's this emergency about? Is everyone all right? My mother, Carol, was right behind him, looking concerned. My brother-in-law, Mike, trailed them, looking bewildered. Brenda, still tearful but with a new sense of fierce pride, grabbed Olivia's hand and pulled her forward. She looked at our parents, then at Olivia, her voice ringing with conviction. Mom, Dad, Mike, this is Olivia. Olivia Miller, Emily's daughter, and David's. The room seemed to go silent. My parents' eyes widened, taking in the young woman, then turning to me, absolute shock on their faces. The storm had just begun. The silence after Brenda's announcement was deafening, but it only lasted a second. My mother, Carol, was the first to move. Her eyes, usually full of gentle warmth, were now blazing with a fierce recognition. She took 2 steps, practically collapsing onto the bench next to Olivia, pulling her into a tight hug. Oh, my darling girl, Carol whispered, her voice thick with tears. She didn't need to ask. She saw it. The resemblance to Brenda, to our side of the family, was undeniable. The granddaughter she'd always secretly yearned for, now sitting right next to her. She just held Olivia's hand, too choked up to speak, her face a mixture of joy and disbelief. My dad, Frank, usually a man of booming declarations, was speechless for a solid minute. Then he finally cleared his throat, his eyes still wide. I see it, he stammered, his voice uncharacteristically soft. But it's hard to believe after all these years. He looked at me, a question in his eyes, but it was clear he already knew the answer. Then with a sudden, proud grin, he snapped his fingers at the server. 2 more bottles of your best champagne. We have a celebration. I stood up, pulling out my phone, handing it to Olivia. Here, hold this. Record this moment. This is going to be wild. I looked around at my family. Brenda, Mike, Carol, Frank, all looking at Olivia with varying degrees of shock, wonder, and pure love. All right, I said, my voice hoarse with emotion. Let me try and explain this insane day. Before I could even launch into the Miller Sr. story, Frank cut me off, his voice surprisingly firm, tears openly streaming down his face. NGL, I've seen my dad cry maybe 3 times in my life, and never like this. Olivia, he declared, reaching across the table and taking her other hand. We don't need a DNA test. I don't care what some lab says. Look at you. You're a Miller. Welcome to our family. He squeezed her hand. You've got aunts and uncles and cousins all over this state, sweetheart. This is your home now. Always has been, even if we didn't know it. Olivia, still holding my phone, was barely able to speak. Her voice was raw, trembling. I came here seeking truth. For my sister, Clara, and for myself, but today has changed everything. I never imagined this. Brenda just showed me so much love, so much certainty. I know Clara will feel it too. At this point, everyone was openly crying. Even Mike, who's usually pretty stoic, was wiping his eyes. Carol was making soft, choked sounds, holding up 2 fingers to me through her tears. 2, David. We have 2 granddaughters, she wailed, crying even harder. Olivia carefully took my phone, still recording, and then asked for it back for a second. She tapped away, adding her and Clara's contact info. Then she looked up, a mischievous glint in her tear-filled eyes. I just sent Clara a video. She needs to see this. A moment later, Olivia's phone buzzed. She read the text, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. Clara says, if what we think is true, the DNA test will confirm it. Watch the 6:00 news. Love your twin. The 6:00 news? Carol exclaimed, her face a mix of confusion and alarm. What on earth is on the 6:00 news? Then her eyes widened. And Clara, my other granddaughter, where are the pictures? I need to see her. David, do you have pictures? She turned to Olivia. Sweetheart, show me your sister. I need copies for my laptop. Olivia, still a little overwhelmed but clearly feeling the warmth of this sudden family, chuckled softly. Hold on, Grandma Carol. She then looked at her own phone, her face suddenly serious. Oh, crap. No one knows where I am. She quickly turned it off. Probably for the best right now. Let them worry. They've been lying for 18 years. Just as she said that, my phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen. It was an unknown number, but something told me. I showed Olivia, her eyes widened. It's Clara, she mouthed. I stood up, my own eyes welling up again, and walked a few paces away from the table, trying to compose myself. Hello? My voice cracked. Frank looked at me, a knowing, empathetic expression on his face. Olivia just watched me, a small, hopeful smile gracing her lips, mouthing, "It's my sister." The other half of my world calling me for the first time. The call with Clara was everything. I walked away from the family, into a quiet corner of the restaurant, my heart pounding. Her voice was hesitant at first, small. But as I talked, as I told her what Olivia had done, what we were doing, her voice grew stronger. I could hear the fear, yes, but also a fierce, unwavering determination. She wanted answers. She wanted the truth. Just like Olivia. Just like me. I promised her I'd be at the hospital first thing in the morning, no matter what. Later that evening, after leaving the restaurant, my family's embrace a solid, warm shield around me, I was on the phone with Mark, my lawyer. He's sharp, brutal, and doesn't sugarcoat anything. David, he began, his voice devoid of emotion. A paternity suit against Mr. Miller Sr. is not just difficult. It's a war. He's powerful, connected. Ex-CIA, like you said. He'll use everything in his arsenal. I don't care, I snapped, my voice shaking with a righteous anger I hadn't felt in years. They are my daughters, Mark, mine. I will fight for full parental rights for Clara and Olivia, whatever it takes. The paternal love was a physical ache in my chest, a burning need to protect them. Mark sighed. In the contract on your life, we can't forget that. He meant business back then, David. He still does. You expose him, you expose Emily, he won't hesitate. Then let him try, I growled. My team was already digging, following my instructions, looking for any shred of evidence of Emily's deceit, any contact with Miller Sr. that contradicted her innocent victim act. I wanted to expose all of it. Sarah texted me again. It's everywhere, Mr. David. The publisher's release went viral. Social media is blowing up. Everyone's talking about it. NGL, a part of me felt a grim satisfaction. Let the world see what kind of monster Miller Sr. was. My father, Frank, called later, his voice steady and resolute. David, he said, don't you worry about money or legal fees. We're behind you. Every penny, every connection. You fight for those girls. We'll fight with you. His unwavering support was a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. I was not alone in this. The next morning, I went straight to the hospital, seeing Clara, lying there looking so fragile yet so much like Olivia, like my sister, broke my heart and filled me with a ferocious resolve. We talked for hours. She told me about growing up under Miller Sr.'s shadow, the constant feeling that something was off. The way Emily always seemed distant, almost cold when it came to them. It all clicked. While I was with Clara, Mark was already moving. He formally requested DNA verification through all legal channels, ensuring there would be no question about the results once they came in. He also had his own people doing a deep dive into Miller Sr.'s shadowy past, sniffing out any lingering CIA connections or off-book operations that could be used against him. I wanted to hit him where it hurt most. Brenda called me constantly, not for updates on the legal stuff, but just to talk. To help me process the overwhelming surge of paternal emotions. It's a lot, isn't it? She'd say softly. To have them back. To know they were always yours. She understood. She was family. I spent hours crafting a powerful personal statement, not just for the courts, but for the public. I wanted my story to be clear, raw, and undeniable. I needed to control the narrative, especially with Miller Sr. undoubtedly preparing his own spin. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a public one. The news reports were indeed exploding. Every channel, every online forum, every social media feed was buzzing with my story. CEO's shocking paternity twist, Miller Sr.'s dark secrets exposed, betrayal in high society. Public interest went through the roof. Then the text came from Mark. Short, to the point. DNA results are in. Preliminary screening is a 9.9% match. It's a screaming positive, David. They're yours. I almost dropped my phone. My hands were shaking again. But this time it wasn't fear or dread. It was pure, unadulterated relief and joy. After 18 years, the truth was out. My daughters, my daughters. Minutes later, another text, this one from an anonymous, encrypted source Sarah had set up. The contract is active. Miller Sr. is enraged. Be careful. The warning was clear. He was coming for me, but he had no idea who he was dealing with now. I wasn't the same man who caved to his threats 18 years ago. I had something to fight for. Two somethings. Mark and I were holed up in his office, prepping for the first showdown with Emily's lawyers. I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. Emily thrives on drama, on manipulation, and with Miller Sr. pulling her strings, it was bound to be a full-blown circus. Expect fireworks, David, Mark had warned, and I was ready to light the fuse myself. He had already officially filed for parental rights and child support. A strategic move, hitting Emily where it hurt. Her wallet and her carefully constructed facade. Just as Mark predicted, Emily's legal team came out swinging, trying every dirty trick in the book to block proceedings. Motions to dismiss, requests for delays, attempts to paint me as unstable. Standard gaslighting tactics. But then Miller Sr. himself stepped out of the shadows. He started making calls, putting pressure on judges, even directly contacting some of my board members. His presence was a dark, chilling reminder of the power he wielded. And with his emergence, the threats against me resurfaced. Anonymous emails, strange cars following me. It felt less like a legal battle and more like I was caught in the middle of a spy thriller. I beefed up my security, hired more bodyguards, installed cameras. NGL, it was exhausting, but I wasn't going to back down. Not now, not when Clara and Olivia, courageous as hell, were voicing their fierce desire to truly know me, their biological father. I had my first video call with Clara. Seeing her face, even through a screen, was a moment that ripped through me. She looked so much like Olivia, but with her own quiet strength. Her eyes, filled with a mix of hope and weariness from her illness, just melted me. I promised her I was fighting for her, for both of them, with everything I had. Then Emily, in a desperate, predictable move, made a public statement, denying everything, of course, calling me emotionally unstable, a vengeful ex-husband, classic narcissistic play. She even brought up old arguments, twisting them to make me look bad. But I was ready. My publisher, a true ally, immediately released even more detailed intel we had gathered, countering her BS point by point. We hit back hard, debunking her lies before they could even take root. My whole family, Carol, Frank, Brenda, Mike, rallied around me like a fortress. They made public statements of their own, affirming their belief in me, their love for Olivia and Clara. Frank even gave an interview, his voice booming with indignation, about how Miller Sr. had tried to silence me years ago. Their rock-solid support was everything. But amidst all the legal and public drama, a terrifying shadow loomed. Clara's health took a turn for the worse. The urgency for a bone marrow match became critically important. Every day felt like a race against time. Olivia, bless her brave heart, started spilling more details about Emily's manipulative and neglectful behavior. Emily hadn't just been distant, she'd actively undermined their relationship with Miller Sr., creating an environment of emotional neglect and fear. She never really cared about us, Olivia confided, her voice hollow. It was always about keeping up appearances for her dad. To cope with the sheer, overwhelming trauma of it all, the betrayal, the threats, the public scrutiny, and the crushing weight of having lost 18 years with my daughters, I started therapy. I needed to process it, to arm myself mentally for the brutal public and legal war that was just beginning. It was a shit show, no doubt. The media frenzy was intense. Public opinion is splitting down the middle. Some saw me as a hero, others as a bitter man trying to destroy his ex-wife. And then, just when I thought nothing else could shock me, my private investigator delivered a bombshell. A stack of photos, pictures of Emily and David's former best friend, taken years ago, long before the twins, caught red-handed in flagrante. This wasn't just about Miller Sr. anymore. This was about Emily's entire pattern of deceit, Stick around to the end to see how life's costly choices unfold. The court battle kicked off like a heavyweight fight. Emily's lawyers came in with their usual bluster, but their defense was flimsy, crumbling under the undeniable weight of the DNA evidence. Mark was relentless, systematically tearing apart every lie, every deflection. It was painful to sit there and watch Emily's carefully constructed world implode, but I owed it to my daughters. Of course, Miller Sr. wasn't going to let it be easy. He used every ounce of his deep state influence, pulling strings, calling favors, trying to throw up roadblocks to stall the legal process. There were mysterious delays, judges recusing themselves, paperwork gone missing. It was infuriating, but we pushed through. Then the real crisis hit. Clara's health deteriorated rapidly. The doctors were grim. The bone marrow match wasn't just urgent anymore. It was critical AF. Every single day was a terrifying countdown. I spent every spare moment at her bedside, holding her hand, reading to her, just being there. And then, a goddamn miracle. The hospital called. I was a perfect bone marrow match for Clara. Perfect. The relief, the overwhelming surge of hope was indescribable. I could save her. My daughter. But Emily, in a move of pure, unadulterated evil, tried to block me. She filed an emergency motion claiming I was an unfit parent, that I was emotionally unstable, and that donating my marrow would endanger Clara. NGL, my blood ran cold. The sheer malice, the willingness to risk her own daughter's life just to spite me, was beyond comprehension. The court thankfully saw through her bullshit. After a tense emergency hearing, the judge granted me temporary parental rights just for Clara's medical decisions. It was a partial victory, a lifeline thrown to my daughter and to me. With a heavy heart but a steely, unshakable resolve, I prepared for the bone marrow donation. It's not a walk in the park, it's painful, invasive. But compared to losing Clara, there was no comparison. Olivia, my brave, incredible Olivia, delivered powerful testimony in court. She didn't hold back, detailing Emily's neglect, the emotional manipulation, the way Emily always put herself and her father's reputation before her own children. Her words were raw, heartbreaking, and utterly damning. As the legal proceedings continued, Mark's team unearthed even more damning evidence. Not just Miller Sr.'s cover-up, but a long-standing, scandalous affair Emily had been having, going back years, even before the twins were born. The photos from the PI were just the tip of the iceberg. Emily was a master of deceit. The media pivoted, focusing intensely on Clara's critical condition and my desperate fight to save her. The public rallied, their support a roaring wave behind me. They saw a father fighting for his child, against all odds, against a web of lies and power. The night before the procedure, I had a raw, heartfelt conversation with Clara. She was weak, but her eyes were clear. "I love you, Dad," she whispered. "Thank you for finding us." I squeezed her hand, tears streaming down my face. "I'll always be here, sweetheart. Always." Frank and Carol were my anchors. They were at the hospital daily, bringing food, holding my hand, just being there. Brenda, ever the force of nature, launched a public awareness campaign for bone marrow donation, hoping to inspire others, turning our personal tragedy into a beacon of hope for other families. The day of the donation was a blur of pain and prayer, but it was a success. Clara began the long, arduous road to recovery. The battle wasn't over, but we had won the most important fight. Clara was going to live. Public support for me exploded. People were rooting for the true father, for the man who fought through years of lies and a powerful adversary to save his daughter. It was humbling, overwhelming, and gave me the strength to keep going. Post-surgery, Clara was a fighter. Slowly but surely, she began to recover. Each day, her color returned, her smile widened, and the bond between us solidified. I spent every possible moment at the hospital, just watching her, talking to her, making up for 18 lost years. It was beautiful, a true miracle. But while Clara healed, the legal war raged on. David's legal team, relentless, uncovered Emily's deep-seated financial motives behind the entire affair and deception. It wasn't just about love or passion. It was about money, about securing her future under Miller Sr.'s wing, knowing he would provide for her if she played ball. Evidence piled up, painting a clear, chilling picture of Emily and Mr. Miller Sr.'s calculated plot against me, against my life, and against my daughter's true parentage. Then came the subpoenas. My ex-best friend, Emily's former lover, was hit with one, dragged into the legal maelstrom. NGL, the betrayal from him cut deep, but now he was just another pawn in Emily's downfall. He had to testify, to admit his part in the decades-long lie, and the contract on my life. It was revealed to be a chilling, credible threat from Mr. Miller Sr., with actual documentation and shadowy figures tied to it. It wasn't just an empty boast. He had genuinely intended to silence me forever. The reality of it was terrifying, but it also fueled my resolve. This man had to be stopped. My old FBI contacts, still loyal despite everything, discreetly lent their assistance. They couldn't officially get involved, but they provided intelligence, helped me navigate the dangerous waters, whispering warnings about Miller Sr.'s reach. It felt like I was living in a Bourne movie. Emily's reputation, once carefully curated, was absolutely shredded in the media. Her public image was in tatters, exposed as a manipulative, cold-hearted schemer. She went from society darling to public pariah in a matter of weeks. But the backlash wasn't just for Emily. Olivia, brave as she was, started receiving hate mail and threats from Emily's dwindling supporters. It was disgusting. These people, still clinging to Emily's fabricated narrative, were lashing out at a child. I was fiercely protective. I immediately beefed up security for both my daughters, ensuring their safety at all costs. No more compromises. The legal proceedings shifted. What started as a civil battle for parental rights was now squarely focused on Emily's criminal conduct. Fraud, conspiracy, child endangerment. The charges were piling up. IDK, how she sleeps at night, knowing what she did. And then, another piece of justice. My original employer, the FBI, seeing the sheer depth of Miller Sr.'s conspiracy and Emily's deceit, reopened my wrongful termination case. They finally smelled the rat, realizing I hadn't just resigned under pressure, but had been forced out as part of Miller Sr.'s cover-up. It was vindication, years in the making. Brenda, my rock star sister, refused to back down from the public fight. She secured a powerful TV interview, sharing the family's raw truth, showing the world the loving family Emily had tried to deny her children. Carol and Frank also provided concrete proof of Emily's manipulative behavior. Stories from way back when, showing her pattern of deceit, ran deep. Mr. Miller Sr.'s murky, shadowy past dealings finally got dragged into the unforgiving public light. All his influence, all his power started to unravel as his corrupt history was exposed. The ex-CIA operative was finally facing consequences for his actions. Emily was now facing a slew of charges, including fraud and, chillingly, endangering her own children by trying to prevent me from saving Clara's life. The pro-revenge play was complete. The truth had won. The verdicts came down like a hammer. Emily was found guilty on multiple counts: fraud, conspiracy, child endangerment. The judge didn't hold back. She faced significant penalties, not just financially, but also jail time. Her public disgrace was absolute. NGL, it felt like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. Justice. Finally, Mr. Miller Sr., the man who had controlled my life for nearly 2 decades, was officially under federal investigation. His once formidable power and influence were diminished to nothing. His empire crumbled, his name synonymous with corruption. The contract on my life, officially nullified. He had no leverage left. The threat was gone. Then came the call from the FBI. They offered me full reinstatement, my old job back, with full back pay and a promotion. Or if I preferred, a massive compensation package for my wrongful termination and all the emotional distress. It was true justice, vindication for everything I'd lost. I hadn't decided yet, but the offer itself was enough. The biggest victory, though, came in court. I was granted full, undisputed legal custody of Clara and Olivia, a legal victory of epic proportions. They were officially mine, legally and unequivocally. Clara's health continued to improve dramatically. Once she was strong enough, she officially moved in with me. Her room, decorated exactly how she wanted, quickly became her sanctuary. Seeing her laugh, hearing her chatter, watching her settle into a normal, stable life, it was everything. Olivia, of course, moved in too. She embraced her new authentic family and father with open arms. The house, once quiet and often filled with a hollow emptiness, was now alive with laughter, teenage conversations, and the constant hum of family. A few months later, I formally adopted Clara and Olivia. It was a purely symbolic gesture, given I was already their biological father and had full custody, but it felt important. It solidified our family unit, a final declaration to the world, and to them that they were mine forever. With the legal battles behind me, I revisited some past relationships, not to rekindle them, but to find closure, to explain what I'd been through, to share the burden I'd carried. It brought a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The media, which had once been a whirlwind of speculation and scandal, now celebrated David's rare resilience and the girl's incredible journey. It became a story of hope, a testament to the power of truth and love. It was a stark contrast to Emily's downfall. My entire family, Brenda, Mike, Carol, Frank, and I began the long, necessary process of healing. The trauma of Emily's betrayal, Miller Sr.'s threats, the years of lies. It would take time, but we were doing it together. I poured my heart into helping Clara and Olivia adjust to their new, stable lives. Therapy, school, making new friends, building routines. It wasn't easy, but they were strong. Clara and Olivia, filled with love and gratitude, often came to me, wrapping their arms around me, telling me how much they loved me, how thankful they were. Those moments were worth every single battle. I reflected on the steep cost of the past, the years lost, the emotional toll, the constant fear, but the overwhelming joy of fatherhood, of having my daughters finally home, of seeing them thrive. It outweighed it all. I decided to write a book about my experience, not for fame or fortune, but to empower others. To tell people that even against impossible odds, truth can prevail. That you should never give up on what's rightfully yours. Emily served her time. Stripped of her assets, her name forever synonymous with deceit and cruelty, she vanished into the anonymity of prison, living with the permanent stain of public disgrace. Mr. Miller Sr. faced his own severe legal consequences. His businesses collapsed, his wealth evaporated, and his name, once whispered with fear, was now a byword for corruption. He died a broken, forgotten man. They both paid a profound moral price, a heavy, justified burden for the decades of lies and manipulation. As for me, I became a beacon of strength. I couldn't just move on, I had to act. I channeled my pain, my anger, and my newfound purpose into advocacy. I became a passionate advocate for victims of manipulation and parental alienation, using my story, my platform, to give a voice to others who had suffered in silence. Clara and Olivia, my beautiful girls, they thrived. Clara, fully recovered, excelled academically, discovering a love for medicine. Olivia pursued her passion for art, enrolling in a prestigious college. They blossomed under my love and support, surrounded by a family that adored them. They knew I had their back 100%, and that gave them the courage to pursue their wildest dreams. I established a foundation, named after my late sister, to help others fight similar heartbreaking battles. It provided legal aid, emotional support, and resources for families torn apart by parental alienation and complex deceptions. It was how I turned my deepest pain into something meaningful, something that could prevent others from experiencing what I had. The bond between Clara, Olivia, and me, and with our entire extended family, Brenda, Mike, Carol, Frank, deepened into an unbreakable unit. We celebrated countless new milestones, graduations, birthdays, holidays. Each one was a testament to our resilience, a joyous making up for lost time. I discovered a new sense of purpose, far beyond the corporate world. Fatherhood. It was the most challenging, most rewarding, most fulfilling role I had ever taken on. My career, while successful, now seems secondary to the boundless love and joy my daughters brought into my life. Cautiously, I learned to trust again. It wasn't easy. The betrayal had left deep scars. But seeing the unwavering loyalty of my family, feeling the pure, unconditional love of my daughters, slowly opened my heart to the possibility of new relationships. It wasn't something I actively sought, but I no longer closed myself off to it. Our story became a powerful cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of deceit, of greed, of the lengths some people will go to maintain a lie. But more importantly, it was a shining testament to the triumph of truth, resilience, and the enduring power of family. We visited the graves of those who supported us and were no longer with us, honoring their memory, letting them know their faith in us wasn't in vain. We held a private ceremony at our new home, a poignant moment where we wrote down our past hurts and burned them, signifying our new beginning, leaving the shadows behind. Hand in hand, my daughters and I, along with our incredible family, looked forward to a future built on unwavering honesty, fierce loyalty, and boundless love. Every day was a gift, a chance to make up for lost time, and a promise that truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way to the light. The betrayal, NGL, it left permanent scars. Emily is in prison, a public pariah, her assets seized, her name synonymous with deceit. Miller Sr.'s empire crumbled, his power evaporated, and he died disgraced. Their consequences were profound, a heavy, justified burden. For me, the trust issues are real. Even with Clara and Olivia thriving, flourishing under my love, the specter of what Emily did, of how easily she manipulated, it lingers. I'm a father now, a protector, an advocate. I've built a foundation, found purpose beyond anything I ever imagined. My girls are safe, loved and whole. But the cost? The 18 years lost, the constant vigilance, the lingering suspicion that sometimes creeps in when I try to open my heart to new relationships. That's the continuing consequence of her betrayal. It's a cold realism. The future is bright, but the past is a shadow that never completely disappears. The end.